pretty good at welding. A&P, I'm not trying to get his kids welding. Well, it started taking him a while, so I guess he's not very well. Just that side, yeah.
I thought we had a very minimal crowd when I came in, and I thought, sit down and wait a while so we get people get here. This is the program on the legal airplane itself. We talk about anything you want to talk about, and there's no way that I can talk for an hour, so you're going to have to help me out with the questions. So get your questions ready when I run down, and Les is going to help me a little bit. One thing I want to emphasize on the building the legal airplane is the #1 station. That's the one that has the places in it for the Volkswagen engine to bolt into. And that #1 station should be built on a bench. You can make it square, you can make it flat, and you can weld in the rubber insulator tubing that the rubber insulators go in. You can weld it in very active, and you want to be very, very, very active with your bolt spacing on your Volkswagen. When you put the Volkswagen engine up there, the bolts will slide in real easy and be a good fit. Otherwise, you probably end up with some broken bolts and stuff like that if you get something out of alignment. But the fuselage is all 4130 chromoline. The tail is all aluminum, and the wings are all wood. So you get a good variety of things to do. There's no way I could talk for an hour, like I said. So you're going to have to help me. I'm getting 10 starts a month on the legal and the XLs, and I'm selling. And everything I sell can be downloaded on your computer and printed out yourself, except the wing rib pattern. It is shows a 55-inch wing rib, so you can build these wing ribs on make a jig out of it, build a wing rib for it. And I'm selling 10 of those a month. I ship 10 of those a month, and I've been doing it for about the last year and a half. So we're getting 10 starts a month on the legal, and it's going to be where everybody has a legal before long. And I gotta tell you a story. Coming up here on the airplane, I was sitting next to this lady, and she had this baby. And it was the ugliest baby I ever saw. And I looked over there and laughed and giggled a little bit, turned my head back over, looked back over and see that ugly baby. Finally she said, "What are you giggling about?" And I said, I decided to tell her the truth. I said, "Ma'am, that baby is the ugliest baby I ever saw. That baby is some ugly." And she called her attendant back. Well, I attended back. "This man is insulting me." And flight attendant said, "Well, calm down. Let me get you something to drink. I'll bring a banana for your monkey." Somebody said, I didn't tell her joke yesterday, so I had to tell her joke today. I've got a buddy here, Les Holman, who is making parts now. And I've contracted with some people in Arkansas to make welded fuselages. And they have bought the tubing, and then they're a father and son team, and they make race car frames So they're very good at welding and fabricating, and the illegal fuselage is going to be a snap for them to weld up. They think when they get started, they can weld up one a week, so you can get some good fast service on your fuselage when they get started. But one of them had 3 operations since I talked to them, and the other house burned down. So they're getting a pretty good delay on getting the fuselage to start going. And I'm probably going to have to make another trip up to Arkansas from Houston to get them started again, because my daughter and I here, we spent about 5 or 6 hours with them explaining what we wanted and everything. They seemed to be really right on the money. Didn't see any problems with them making the fuselages. But other problems cropped up, and the fuselage has been delayed quite a bit. But also, maybe this fall we can get the fuselage going, and they claim they can make one a week, and I would imagine they could, compared to what they've been doing. They make fuselage, they make framework for race cars, and they put a stock body on them, and it looks like a stock car, but it's really a race car underneath. It's all set up with a racing mode. Like I said, I didn't know we have to talk for an hour. I need a question. I need somebody who wants to answer a question. Okay.
All right. I did order the plans from you maybe a month ago, and I did not closely look at them. My question is, how long of a table should I build to build a...
I'm going to build at least 12 feet.
Okay.
I've got a 12-foot bench that I built all my airplanes on, but I also had a 4-foot extension I could temporarily put on it for the XL, I mean not the XL, but the Cabin Eagle and the Double Eagle. They have a longer wing than the Eagle does. The Eagle has a wingtip flange on it. It's plywood, and it sticks up above the wing about an inch and down below the wing about an inch. And that helps hold the air on the wing when you're flying. And it only works with a low aspect ratio wing, because it doesn't work on the XL because it has a longer wing, and it doesn't work on the Cabin Eagle or the Double Eagle. Okay.
Are there any plans for the 3-cylinder motor mount?
Oh, I got a guy who's going to talk to you about that in a few minutes here. Yes, sir.
Any idea how many Briggs & Stratton motors are out there running airplanes, and what the...
Yeah, I have a Briggs & Stratton on my XL airplane in my hangar right now that I've been using. And it's been tested for about 2.5 years, and it's working really good. And I have this gentleman's going to talk to you in a minute. He spent 2.5 years of his time developing that I'm getting a senior moment here. Refreshes that engine. Yeah. So, more questions, please.
Yeah, what was the design load requirements you put on plus or minus for the XL?
My hearing aids don't go back that far.
Your design limits that you set for plus and minus of the XL?
Load factor.
Load factor.
Plus or minus G's for the XL design.
Well, that wing has been tested to 1,008 pounds. It's 4 G's. That's a gross strength at 4 Gs. It's 1,008 pounds on one wing, and it didn't make a sound. It bent, but it didn't make a sound. The first time I tried it, it bent the jig, and I had to reinforce the jig to go ahead with the tests. And I had 7 people there watching me. They were all interested in to see if that little 20-pound wing would hold up 1,000 pounds. And I used the same struts and the same bolts that would be on the airplane flying. So there was nothing that wasn't going to be on the airplane was being tested. And it did bend 5.5 inches, but it didn't creak or crack or pop or anything. And I had a jack under the tip, and I let it down twice just to prove everything. That it was to everybody that it was actually holding the weight up. We loaded it with bricks, and got quite a pile of bricks on it. I think the brick weighed about 4 pounds, and we had quite a few bricks on that thing. It added up to 1,008 pounds. So, does that answer your questions?
Yes.
Okay. It's, you're never going to put 4 Gs on it legal. It'll resist. I had a friend, we have a fly-in that's called Rexall in Texas. It's Walkersville backwards, a little town down there. We have the ranch there has a fly-in every fall, and it's very popular. A lot of people come. I had a buddy of mine had a legal. He came several years in a row, and one day we was there, and he said, "I'm going to go for a spin." Well, I thought he was going to fly around the airport, you know. And we started climbing. I said, "What in the world are you doing?" We put it into a spin, and he made a turn and a half and pulled it out. We start climbing back up again, and I said, "Oh no, he's not going to do it again." And so he put it in a spin again. He took 2 turns, and he came out after 2 turns. Then he started down real fast, come back, landed, and he said, "I couldn't hold it in over 2 turns. It comes out by itself." I said, "Well, don't do it again." He was a very good pilot, very good friend. He had a good airplane history behind him. More questions?
Can you talk about the covering?
Sir?
Say, can you talk about covering?
Oh, yes.
Favorite.
Dicron for covering, and the polyfiber, polytack glue. Use that for gluing it on the framework, and also on top of the wing rib, put a good coat of glue on all the wing ribs and let it dry. And when you cover the airplane, you glue around the edges of the wing like a drum, and then you tighten it up. And when you get it tight as you want it, by the way, don't tighten it too tight because you can warp the wing. You want it where it's not quite as tight as a certified airplane would be. And so then you've got this glue on the ribs, and you take a thinner and half thinner and half glue, and you work your way through down each rib, and the cloth comes up. Cloth is porous enough to glue comes up through the cloth and seals it to the rib, and it's sort of the full length of the rib, so it's really better than rib stitching as far as I'm concerned. And I do this to the bigger airplanes, the double eagle and the cabin eagle. I do it on the rib on those 2. Okay, I'm having a problem here. Yes, sir.
So you don't need to rib stitch them?
no rib stitching. You know, I've done a lot of rib stitching, and I tried it the other day and I couldn't do it. Yes.
What weight fabric did you use, Leonard?
1.7 ounce. And then I put that on I built a biplane. I built a LED biplane that was really nice. And I put the 1.7 ounce on it, and it was aerobatic. And it held up real well. The lightweight Dacron is very good.
Has anyone used the Stewart system on any of the builds?
I tried it. I didn't like it.
It's water-based, so.
Well, what I do is use the latex paint. You use latex primer, and the primer goes through the cloth and gets it encapsulates the cloth, and it's on the other side. And you brush the primer on so that you get it down through the pores. And you want it on the back side, but you got to be careful with the latex primer. You get way too much primer on the bottom side of it. So you got to be kind of very careful that way. And then I put a cross coat of regular paint on it. Latex paint has UV protection in it. It's flexible and it sands very hard. It's very tough to sand. It's a very tough paint, and if you want to really make it shine, you put 2 coats on and sand it in between, and then you can polish the last coat, and it'll be beautiful. And it stays on the house for 10, 12 years most of the time, and out in all kinds of weather, in all kinds of changing weather. And it doesn't stink either. It doesn't smell bad. Yes, sir.
What glue do you use for your woodwork? What kind of glue do you use for your woodwork, Leonard?
Which?
Glue. What glue do you use?
Glue for the ribs.
I recommend T88, but I use Tight Band 3. I had to take some Tight Band 3 apart one time, and I said, this is good stuff. I had to take it apart in the glue joint. And I built the wing, then I hired an aeronautical engineer to check my wing, and he made me change a lot of stuff to protect him. And so I had to take it apart in the glue joint, and oh man, that sold me on the glue. It's not a structural glue. They don't claim to be structural. T88 is structural, but all my airplanes are built with the Teflon glue.
Yeah, and for your half VW, you got a 5-gallon tank. About how long is that going to go in the half VW? The duration of the half VW on that 5-gallon tank?
Well, that VW is about 2 gallons an hour. So you're going to have 2 hours and some time to get to an airport, hopefully.
Yeah.
So if you've got, say, 50 miles an hour or 55, maybe 60, you can judge, you should go 100 miles. Somebody else? I know you don't know everything, come on.
For the folding wing plans, I noticed last year in the video you also had the horizontal stabilizers move up.
Yeah, you have to fold the tail up so the wing will fold back.
Right. Is that part included in the plans too for the folding wings for the elevator?
Yes, it's in the plan.
Very good.
It's included in the plan.
I haven't had a chance to look that close.
And if you do decide to have folded wings, the tail is important that you have all 3 of these spars back there on the elevator and stabilizer. All 3 of those pieces are exactly the same length, so that it will fold. And it wasn't intended for people to fold it and fly, unfold it and fly it and then refold it again for every flight. It's mainly for storage. And one reason is that if you have to set the airplane up, maybe take 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then you have to tear it back down again, you're not going to go flying because you don't have time. You've got a couple hours to go flying, and you spend that time folding and unfolding the airplane. You just say, well, I won't even do it. You won't even go. Might not even go to the airport if you have to do that. So keep your airplane ready to go so you fly it. Help me out with more. Yes, sir.
What do you recommend running for the ignition on the half VW?
I'll use a battery ignition and a distributor and a coil condenser and distributor. And on the distributor, I usually cut off the two towers. I use two and four posts on the distributor and cut off 1 and 3 because the third lobe on the distributor cam is retarded, so you don't want to use the number 3. You use 2 and 4. I just cut those towers off and put a little JB weld there where the hole is and smooth it over. It looks like you got a 2-cylinder distributor cap. You can grind the other lobes off of the distributor shaft if you want to, and it gives you a lot more dwell time on your coil. But the spark is really good on a double. It's a 009 distributor, by the way. And that's a centrifugal advance, and I'm not sure exactly how many degrees it advanced, but it's quite a bit. 18, 20, something like that. And it's all automatic. You don't have to worry about it. And by all means, set your timing at top dead center. And be sure it's at top dead center, or you'll have some scars like I got. Don't advance the timing and try to prop it because it doesn't like it. But be sure you have the timing set at exactly top dead center and check it several times to be sure it's there. More questions? Yes, sir.
What are the differences in the weights of the engines, like the half VW, the Briggs & Stratton, and the Veneer?
What are the differences in the engines?
Yeah, weight-wise.
The weights? They're very similar. They're really close.
Yeah, they're within just a few pounds of each other.
Just a very few pounds difference. I'm going to let Les tell you about the 3-cylinder engine and the Briggs & Stratton engines. He put a lot of work into the Briggs & Stratton development, and he made a paper on it. And I sell that paper for $50. And if you even have any idea you might want to do that, you really need to get that set of plans for the. He even included the engine mount. He drew out the engine mount for you that you can use for the Briggs & Stratton. So let's get up here and tell them about the things that you've been doing for. So Les was making some parts. He needs to tell you about that.
Okay, regarding the weight on the various engines, the lightest way to put an engine on the front of a legal is the half VW with the standard automotive ignition and a lightweight battery. The Magneto is a great way to go, and you don't have to worry about power. But the problem is they weigh about 4.5 to 5 pounds. If you go with the standard automotive ignition and a lightweight battery, these lightweight batteries lithium ion weigh about 1 pound, 1 ounce. And the distributor has a hotter spark, makes it easier to start. Regards to timing, if you get it advanced too much, you will know it because it'll kick back. And the further it is, the worse it kicks back, and it's not fun, it hurts. So it automatically gets you to the right spot. But the 45 horsepower Cassler engine, half VW with a magneto, with a wood prop, performance propeller, firewall forward, weighed 102 pounds. Now, when I talk about engine weights, I don't talk about just the engine because it's meaningless. You've got to have exhaust pipes, you've got to have bolts to anchor it to the airplane, you've got to have other odds and ends to make that thing work. So when I talk engines, I talk firewall forward, which means that if you have an operating airplane, unbolt the engine and put it on the scales, that's what I'm talking about. Now the Briggs & Stratton is with the aluminum flywheel with no charging system, weighs about 98 pounds. With the charging system on it, it comes up to about 104 pounds. So it's a little bit heavier, but you have a charging system. And with the charging system, in either case, you're going to have electric start, but in the one case, you can charge your battery, which makes it real nice. The Verner, it has a weight without the starter of about 100 pounds. With the starter, it comes up roughly 108 pounds. And so all of those engines are in about the same weight class. People ask me about the big Briggs & Stratton, the 35 horse. Well, the 35 horse Briggs & Stratton, modified like we did the 23 horse, has plenty of power, performs real good, except it weighs about 151 pounds, and you have to add another about 8 pounds to the tail of your airplane. So you're up closer to 160 pounds. So if you're trying to stay near Part 103, it kind of rules it out. Now, the Legal Eagle doesn't take a lot of horsepower like some of the airplanes do to fly. And the difference in performance between the Briggs & Stratton and the low horsepower, we're talking 28, 30 horsepower half VWs, they're very similar in performance, very similar in climb, very similar in speed, and very similar in fuel consumption. You're going to be looking at about 1.8 to 2 gallons an hour. Now, when you move up to the 45 horsepower, half VW, you get up to about 2.4 gallons an hour. Now, that's at cruise. If you go to full power and keep it there, you can easily get up to 4 gallons an hour. And you generally don't do that unless you're playing around. But the Verner uses, at my cruise that I cruise at, uses 2.1 gallon an hour. Now, I have a friend that weighs approximately 100 pounds less than I do. He cruises at I think it's 1.1 gallon an hour, running about 1,700 RPM. So the more you push that throttle ahead, the faster you're going to burn the fuel. Now, in terms of duration, flying, I've done a lot of cross-country flying, and what happens is the winds. If you make a 60-mile flight in your Legal Eagle, it's a serious cross-country. Because if you end up with a tailwind, that might be a 15-minute flight. On the other hand, if you have a headwind, that might be a 2-hour flight. And the wind makes more difference than engine horsepower or power setting. Now, to me, one of the most critical items for your airplane is a stopwatch. And what you do, every time you go flying, you record the RPM you're flying at, You set your stopwatch when you crank it up, and you turn it off when you land, and then you fill it up with fuel. And you start building a database at this RPM, I'm using this many gallons an hour. That way, when you get ready to go somewhere, you know you're using 2 gallons an hour at that RPM or whatever it is. If you try to depend on the fuel gauge of any kind, you're not going to have a very accurate reading on the actual fuel you have. I had a friend that lived about 60 miles away from me. I had to go north about 30 miles and turn west 30 miles. Well, on a good day, I could make that in just a little over an hour. But on a windy day, there was one day it took me like 2 hours and 15 minutes to get there. And when I got there, I had less than a quart of fuel in my tank. On the other hand, I'd come back with a tailwind, and I got back in less than 30 minutes. So it's fun doing cross country speed. The record that I have flying is 22 mile an hour on the low side and 86 on the high side. And that's my cruise speed on the GPS. So the winds can make a huge difference. Now, the instruments that go into a legal eagle, you don't really need anything except an oil pressure gauge, and an oil temperature gauge is nice when you first start flying to make sure you don't have a problem. But the oil temperature, if you have a battery, you want a voltmeter. And everything else you don't really need. Altimeters, airspeeds. One of the things you find is you get used to flying the airplane and you get to know the speeds and what it's doing. You don't need to look at any instrument. You go up, the legal eagle, when it stalls, has a very gentle stall characteristic. As a matter of fact, it's one of those things when you stall it the first time, it's like, did that really happen? I gotta do that again. We were talking about the G-loads on a legal eagle, the XL or the Ultralight. I cannot speak for the double eagle, but on the legal eagle, I can fly wide open, straight and level. I'm almost up to VNE. I can't go no faster, and you haul the stick back. If you get to 2G, you're really pushing it. The only way I have found to build up the G-load in the legal eagle is I gotta do a spiral dive. And you put yourself in a spiral, and you start tightening it up until you get the G you want. It's not an accidental maneuver, it's a very intentional maneuver. I had a G meter in my red airplane, my red legal eagle, for a while, and I intentionally tried to build up G's. The biggest, most violent G load I got was taking it in and out of the hangar, because there was a drop off at where the door opened and closed. When you are landing and you bounce it real bad, it's probably the highest load your airplane will ever have. Because up in the air, if you try to do something like a wing over, about the time you get it pointed a little bit up, it says, I'm tired, that's enough of that. And you can be at wide open, full throttle, and it starts up and that's it. Now, if you're a real lightweight person, you can get further into it. But the G-load is not something that you really have to worry too much about. They are not designed for aerobatics. And so when Leonard was talking about spins, they're not designed for that. As a matter of fact, you have to work very, very hard to get one into a spin. My airplanes, if you're making a 90 or 60 degree bank turn and you pull back and you stall it, before it stalls, it actually flattens out. And so it's a neat, fun airplane to fly. Now, there were several questions asked, and I was going to answer or try to add to that, and I have got my mind all carried away and forgot those. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Tell them about the parts you got for sale.
Oh, okay. One of the things, when you get your legal eagle and you start looking at the plans, you run into several pieces where you need a thing like a lathe. For instance, on the engine mounts, there's a bushing up there. There's a metal one that goes in station 1, and then there's a little bushing goes inside that. Well, if you don't have a lathe or access to a lathe, those parts, you're going to have to go find a machine shop until recently. And Leonard had asked me if I'd be interested in building some parts for the legal. So I've set up a business, Legal Eagle Support Parts, and I've been selling those parts. And what happens, if you check out Legal Eagle Support Parts, I've got a website, and I've got a catalog there that you can shop, and I'm selling those sleeves for the Station 1 with the aluminum sleeve on the inside and the metal on the outside. They're all ready to go. I sell them either that way, or you can buy the entire set with the bushings and the washer that goes behind it. So whichever way you want to go. Now, I'm also working on the landing gear springs. I have those available so that the whole entire spring and linkage assembly for the landing gear is available. The metal fittings for the landing gear strut, I've got those available. I got several other parts on there that are available. I'm in the process of finding a laser cutter so I can do the aluminum wing fittings and do some other parts for the fuselage. As time goes by, my plan is to build the entire Station 1 ready to weld onto your airplane, all lined up and squared like they need to be. Because the most critical part building a Legal Eagle is getting that Station 1 lined up to the back of your engine. And it's not really that critical, because if you're off, what you're going to probably do is find broken bolts periodically. The Legal Eagle, the way they've been designed, are very easy to build. They're a very easy airplane to learn how to weld, and there's nothing structurally extremely critical on these airplanes. I have built airplanes that a lot of the parts and pieces on it were extremely structurally critical, that they had to be absolutely perfect. And the Legal Eagle, it needs to be good, it needs to be satisfactory, but it's not like building an unlimited aerobatic machine or something like that. The fabric that's on these things is a 1.7 ounce Dacron, although I understand that Dacron, all of the fabric manufacturers, it actually only comes from one mill. So even though they have different names for it, it's all the same thing. Now, when I built my red one, it was about $3.40 a yard. And I've been looking at some fabric here lately, and it's about almost $14 a yard. So prices are changing. One of the things that you'll find as you start looking at building is the cost of shipping of parts. And in a lot of cases, you can drive halfway across the country and pick up all the materials at one time and save enough in shipping to pay for your gas and your time to go do it. And anyway, it's something to be aware of, because as I started my business making parts, things like 090 sheet sounds simple and easy to get, but I'm having a terrible time finding it at a real good price. And everything I found so far, the price of it, okay, that's not bad, but the shipping is 25 to 30% of the cost of the parts. And so what I've been doing is actually going to the manufacturers or the suppliers and picking it up. And I'm working on more supply, but it's just something to be aware of. Now, is there any other questions? Yes?
For engine mount plants and engine
The Werner engine mount plans, if you send me an email or contact me through Legal Parts, my email is les@legalparts.com, and I will send you a set of those. I have, when I done the research and development on putting the Werner on the front of the Legal, I put together a set of plans, and it took me several iterations to get everything squared away. And when I finally got it working and doing everything it's supposed to, I was thinking to myself, hey, there's going to be other people who need these, but it's not going to be a lot of people. So I put together a set of plans. And then Werner here recently just went and changed the whole game, because the new Legals, instead of having that small little ear on there where you had to bolt to before, it got a nice big eye up there. And that takes a whole different bushing and a whole different mount system. But send me, and just let me know that you talked to me here, and I'll send them to you. They're a PDF.
So the new, they changed the Werner engine, so the mount and mount stick. Is that right?
The what now?
You said the Werner changed their engine?
Yeah.
Sides, the mount is different?
Yeah, what happened on the original engines, it's a magnesium case, and they have a little ear with approximately a 3/8 inch hole on the back of the case, and they're little bitty ears. And one of the concerns that we had initially was breaking that ear off. And what I've done is I finally ended up with a plate, an 090 plate on the back of the engine that anchors into several points. And then the part of the mounting, the anti-rotational mounting is attached to that plate. Now, in case you're wondering, that they have sensors on us, so they know when we're talking, so they know when we get noise. But the new engines, they finally listened to what we were telling them, and they put that nice big ear up there where you can put a real healthy bushing in it and basically go to a more normal engine mount system. But I haven't been around one of those engines other than to see the pictures. Okay, yes?
What is the Werner engine cost? Is it direct drive?
The Werner engine, the last I've heard is approximately $9,000, and they are direct drive, 42 horsepower at 2,500 RPM.
What size propeller does it carry?
I'm running a warp drive prop, and it's a, I believe a 72. If you can get by with a 74, the bigger the prop, the better it is. The Werner, one of the advantages of the Werner is torque. They have 135 foot-pounds of torque. The 45 horsepower half VW only has about 90 foot-pounds of torque. And one of the reasons that the Briggs & Stratton 23 horsepower with the redrive and the modification of the things that we've done to it works is it has something like about 113 or 14 pounds of torque. Because that redrive really works. That's why the big Briggs & Stratton is only 35 horsepower engine, but it has that redrive. And that torque really makes a difference. When I've flown the big Briggs & Stratton, it's more like flying about a 60 horsepower full case VW in terms of climb and performance. So that reduction really makes a difference.
Follow up this question, what's firewall forward cost to begin with?
The what now?
Firewall forward cost for each engine set.
Firewall forward?
Cost for each engine.
Oh, okay. Firewall forward. The low horsepower half VW, what happens if you are a good scrounger? See, back in the old days, a lot of VWs were readily available. And I know people that have put together engines for less than $500. Now, today, I understand those parts and pieces of engines are not readily available, so it depends on what you can find. If you go buy a new Volkswagen case and a new everything and put it together, I don't really know the exact figure, but you're looking at probably $2,000 or $3,000 at least, maybe more. Now, if you go to someone like Hummel and buy one, and they say 35 horsepower, I believe you're up in about the $4,000 range, and the 45 horsepower, I believe, is up in about the $5,500 range. Now, the Briggs & Stratton, you should be able to put one of those together for about $3,500. That would be the engine, the redrive, the prop, the material to build the engine out. Now, the Briggs & Stratton is a nice engine, but some people like to really get carried away and go up to the Verner. Well, the Verner, by the time you get the engine, your prop, your oil tank, and everything else related to it, you're going to be up in the probably $10,000 or $11,000 range. Yes?
Approximately how long can you fly on a battery charge on a half Volkswagen?
Okay, on a with a lithium-ion battery, with the electronic, just a standard automotive ignition, you can fly typically easily 3 or 4 hours. And where you typically run into a problem is you fly an hour or two to go to a pancake breakfast or something, and you hang around there, and then you're going to head home. And generally it's not a problem, but that's where some people run into problems. Now, there's a lot of solutions to that. I know somebody that took a solar panel, a flexible solar panel, and they mounted it up on the top of the wing. Run the wires down, and that charged their battery. And then, like we have a legal out here with a little generator hung down in the landing gear. That's another solution to that problem. Yes?
Well, you do want to have a voltmeter, and you can tell if the battery is getting low with the voltmeter. So you look at the voltmeter, and if it's good, you fly, and if it isn't, you land, right?
Yes. Yeah, a voltmeter, you can, turn the ammeter and everything else, but if you just watch the voltage, that'll pretty much tell you. And the thing about the voltmeter, is they make voltmeters that you can get through Amazon and whatnot that are very, very light. They weigh maybe less than an ounce. And they're very precise, they're digital. And they'll give you your voltage and don't add extremely small weight to the airplane. Yes?
I noticed on your legal out here with the large tires, golf cart tires, nobody didn't have a spring in the gear.
Yeah, what happened? This airplane here, I built several legal eagles. And when I built this airplane, my intention was I wanted an airplane without any question when I got through, it was well below 254 pounds. And Leonard and I talked a couple of years ago at Oshkosh about building a light ultralight. So we talked as I built it, and it's not a standard airplane by far, but it is very light. As it sits there, it's 247 pounds, and that's with the big tires. Now those big tires, compared to the tires, the little tires that come with the Black Max, they're about 6 pounds a tire heavier. So that's 12 pounds of tires that you wouldn't have on a standard legal. The other thing is this has electric starter. That's another 8.5 pounds that you wouldn't have on a standard legal. So there's a lot of things I've done to save weight on that airplane. The wings, I took 13 inches off the XL wing on each side just to save more weight. And I done everything I could. I drilled holes in to lighten it up. And so, as you're building these, you do not want to add weight. Always think, how can I lighten this part up? For instance, if you have a cable guide If you have a nylon type bushing like they use in a normal airplane, you have a little piece of 4130, about 3/4 inch diameter, about 1/2 inch long. Well, that's not all that much weight, but you can drill holes in it and cut that weight in half. It uses all aluminum washers. Again, it's not a lot of weight in itself, but if you save a few ounces here and a few ounces there, pretty soon you're getting into some pretty good weight. Now the struts, the round struts versus the streamlined struts. On my red airplane, there is about a 12-pound difference between the round struts versus the streamline. And the streamline are the heavier ones. And the round work just as well. There's no speed variation. If you're really concerned about speed, legal's not meant for speed. It's meant for fun. I've flown airplanes where you could put your hand out and you could watch the airspeed slow down. Legal, you can put your hand out, put the other hand out, lean out as far as you can. It don't slow down. Yes?
There are people who have used balsa wood or foam to make a streamline out of a round tube, and it doesn't cost very much weight.
Yeah, that's another option. It takes a little bit of work, but you can take some balsa wood and some of that light fabric that the airplane's covered with and make some beautiful fairings that adds just a few ounces to the entire airplane and yet gets you the same performance as a streamline if that's what you want to do. Yeah, yes.
As far as the landing gear without the springs, the big tires, shock absorption that you get away from now?
The big tires are my shock absorption on this airplane. They only have 4 pounds of air in them, and they will bounce about that far. With the other alternative is to put standard tires on it, which saves weight, and then put the springs and put the spring landing gear in there. That gives you about the same travel, but I ordered the big tires. I like the way they perform when you're rough terrain. Yeah, in the back.
Now, what about wood propeller versus a carbon fiber one?
The half VW, one of the downsides is you have to use a wood propeller. The Briggs & Stratton and the Werner, you can use a wood propeller, you can use a work drive propeller. I'm sure there's other propellers you could use because you don't run into that harmonic situation and the power pulses of half VW. So you have a lot of flexibility there. There's someone else.
Work drive only lasts about 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, if you take and put a plastic propeller or a work drive propeller on a half VW, they will last, it'll be measured in seconds. It won't be measured in minutes or hours. That power pulse on the half VW, especially the higher horsepower ones, is severe. Yes?
Your landing gear's a little bit different on the smaller tires, isn't
Not really.
having the same length of feet.
The landing gear, what happens? If you take an airplane, like my orange one or my red one or any of them, and you level them up, there's a height from the ground to the fuselage, to the lower longerons. And by going to smaller tires, you lower that. And if your prop clearance is adequate, the biggest thing I noticed with a lot bigger tires versus small ones is the smaller tires makes it easier to get in and out. You don't have to lift your legs so high.
So the gear is no different?
The gear can be the same. I mean, you can build it longer if you want to or shorten it up. But if you have the big tires on, it's like, I think I'll try some smaller tires. You don't need to change it. Or if you have the small tires and go to the big ones, you don't need to change it. Now you may find that I had a knee replaced a while back, and it got to a point where with the big tires, I couldn't get my feet up, my leg up and get in there because of my knee. And so the height of it seems to be, to me, the biggest issue.
uses the same landing gear, same length. Your airplane is the same length landing gear as the big tires.
Yeah. Yeah. Any more questions? I'll turn it back over to Leonard here.
The thing you want to add when you're building a legal is lightness. You take every part and see if you can make it lighter and keep the same strength. And that's very important because some of these days the FAA may start weighing them. Right now they don't want anything to do with them. I talk to FAA people that I know are keep me this skinny, and they say it's not a vehicle. It's not an airplane. It's a vehicle. And they say, I called them. I said, I've got this airplane here abandoned in my hangar, and I want to sell it. And he said, it's not an airplane. It's a vehicle. You do what you want to with it. And he said, call the motor vehicle division. So I did. I called the motor vehicle division, and they said, no, it's not a vehicle because it's not licensed and not registered. So Les came up with the off-road vehicle for his airplane. But when you do build as light as you can, and think of everything on the part to keep it light. I don't think they'll ever start weighing them. There is a rumor that they're going to ease up on the restrictions for ultralights and LSAs. So we hope they do, but until they do, we need to keep our airplanes legal. And mine are very close, but they are legal. And I want to keep them that way. So whenever you build, add lightness. And if you got some strict little thing you want to put on there, it's not in the plan, don't do it. And we're having a birthday party for me right after this is over with, and it's pretty close to being over with. And I thank Les for taking over with me because I was getting pretty weak there about speaking. I get these senior moments pretty regular nowadays. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming. Enjoyed you, and there is a party going on pretty quick here, right in front of the Red Barn for my 100th birthday. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all.
Appreciate you, sir. Thank you, Leonard.
We all love you, Leonard.
Good job. I've been following you ever since the bus first showed up here. It's handy. I teach aircraft.